next semester. Okay, so this is your entire what we call it as your subject. But this time we are not at all, we are just going for the basic things which are required for your this particular Java database connectivity, right? Okay, so let's start with that. So in Java, when we are basically working on this database management system now, so there are different query languages too. Like in our programming, we have different programming languages now, like C, C++, Java, Python. Similarly, in your database management system, we have different programming language like SQL, your PLSQL, and your NoSQL, right? So in most of the scenario, like in currently, we for this basically for this semester or for this couple of lecture, what I'm going to do, I will focus it upon only on this particular structure query language, because these query language are very simple. Okay, they are not complicated. But these things like your PLSQL and NoSQL, you are going to learn in where you are going to learn in your that particular subject, that is your database management system. Even though we are not going to cover the entire things that are there inside your structure query language, because there are many components, right? But we are going to perform simple operation, like how to create a table, how to basically extract that information. Only these two operations we are going to learn in this your particular lecture or upcoming lecture. So first of all, what is your structure query language? So right now in this lecture, I'm just going to give you a theoretical foundation, means fundamentals related to your JDBC, means your database management system. That is just an overview, right? Don't say that, okay, after going to these two, three slides or 10, 20 slides, okay, we are mastered in database management system. No, because in last year, when I took that particular subject, the students were quite confident. They were saying me like, sir, we already know database management system. Then I said, okay, that's great if you know the database management system, because they know how to create table, how to insert data, how to extract data. So they are pretty comfortable, they are sure about this particular thing. But whenever we keeps on these means there are many concepts that are there in database management system. Whenever we keeps on discussing about those particular terms, then they will feel like, okay, we have missed a lot of things in that particular thing, right? So don't say that after going through this particular thing, okay, you are mastered in database management system. No. Okay, so we are just going for, I can say that we are just for this particular database management system, we are just discussing about 2 to 5% of your entire database management system. We are not talking about the entire concepts, right? We are just talking about how to create table, how to insert table, and all those things, right? So in database management system, like our MySQL Workbench, I hope that all of you have already installed your MySQL Workbench. Like, so once you are going to install this your MySQL Workbench, so it is free of cost. You don't have to pay anything, right? Like this. So there are many different organizations, right? So you only don't have this particular Oracle MySQL Workbench. You have Oracle, you have different means, each and every organizations, what they do, they create their own database management system, right? Like I have seen some of you are using Firebase, those who are creating the app, those who are basically creating some Android application, they want to connect with Firebase, so that is a cloud based database management system, but still that is a different database management system. So there are different kind of database management systems, and all database management system has its own pros and cons, right? We cannot say that, okay, MySQL is better than your what we call it as your IBM database management system. No, we cannot comment on that. Okay, so it depends upon the application. So they are providing some sort of, you can say that, security and all something like that. So right now we are not going to discuss about this thing. So once you will basically install this particular thing, so what we can see over here is this particular account. Okay, so always remember that whenever you will install your MySQL Workbench, so you will find out, okay, already you will find that by default password. If you want to change, you can change the username also. So username for my case is root, And here you can see is local host and 3306. So remember this 3306 is your port number. So whenever we are running any application, either you are running your mails or applications, either we are running our MS Team, right, or our whatever the application we are running online, okay. So we are using some sort of ports, and those ports are dedicated, okay. It means other application cannot use this port, right? So that what will happen whenever we want to perform some sort of operation, so automatically our operating system, what it will do, it will directly go through that particular port number. You can call it as your room number like that, and it will go, okay, there is something related to database management system, okay, or MySQL workbench, go to room number 3306, right, like this. And this local host, whenever you are writing local host, so in most of the times you will see that you are writing local host. Local host will return our own IP address, okay. So whatever the IP address my machine is having, so even I can write it down that particular IP address, but it's better to write it down localhost. So it means that somehow if you are going to change your IP address of your system, so it is not going to impact your MySQL workbench. Then again, automatically, because it will take that particular local host. So whatever your a laptop or your system IP. So once you will click over there, so what it will ask? It will ask for your password. So my password is root123. So once I will click on that, then you will find out that yeah. So you will see that it will open this particular thing, right? It will open this entire thing. So in this entire thing, what we can see here is basically these cylindrical structures are nothing but they are always represented as your database, right? Now the question is, what is database? Database is a collection of similar kind of your tables or your schemas, your views, your stored procedure, your functions. See, in your database management system, in your database, all these are all the there are many other components too, but out of which these are four components, right? Whenever we are going to create a database in your this particular thing, right? So here you can see directly that right now we are creating only tables, but later on whenever we will go through that subject, then we are also going to create views, stored procedure, as well as functions too. Like I have, as I told you, that we can also create, we can use programmable logic in our structure query language too, right? Like this. So whenever you are creating any database, right? So how can you create a database? So this is a very simple term, okay? So what you do, you just write it down. So generally, whenever you are creating any project, so it's better to put all your tables inside, and for that particular project, create a separate database so that whatever the tables you want to access, right, you can directly access that all the tables by directly going for that particular database. So here what I have done, I have created this particular database. So here these two are your keywords like your create and database. So see, it's kind of a English language, right? Our this structure query language. So that is why this language is quite easy to understand and it's quite easy to remember, right? So if I want to create a database, I will write it down like create database and whatever the name of my database I want to write, right? Once I will execute this statement, so here you will find this particular symbol like your flash. So if you're following this particular superhero movie like Flash, so this is a sign of this particular flash, okay. So here you will find out you have to just click. So whatever the statement you want to execute, just select that particular statement and just try to execute it. So let me create immunocare 123. So right now here you will not find that I will not have immunocare 123 database. But once I will click and once I will execute this particular thing, so here right now again you will ask me, sir, we are not able to find whether I'm having that particular database or not. But here you can see here that we have this particular database already created and we are not getting any error. So over there, because we have to refresh this particular window, this particular schema, right? So here you will find that this is a kind of a it will work as a refresh button too. So once I will click over there, now you will see and you will find it that now we have created ImmunoCare 123. Now if I will click over there, if I will click on tables, so then you will find it that we don't have any other tables, right? Do we find out? No, we don't have any other tables over here. So in order to sort out this particular thing, in order to create tables inside your ImmunoCare, remember, because here we have multiple database. But what I want to use this ImmunoCare database and I want to insert a table inside this ImmunoCare database. So how can I create a table inside your ImmunoCare database? So for this, we generally use this command. That command is your use command. Okay, so we generally use this keyword that is known as your use key ImmunoCare. Once I will execute this your statement, and what will happen now, we are accessing, see, if you will check it out, after executing this statement out of all these database, now you can see that ImmunoCare, let me, sorry, I clicked on this particular thing. See, in this, so now we have selected this your ImmunoCare 1 2. Let me make it as 1 2 3. Okay, because right now we are want to access 1 2 3. Right, now let's execute, yeah, this one. So now here what we are doing is, yeah, so now we are accessing our ImmunoCare 1 2 3 database. So that is why now whatever the table we want to create, or suppose if some tables are already exist, so if we want some sort of thing, so that is why we have to write this statement. Otherwise, if we are creating, if we directly create this particular table, then our this particular thing, MySQL workbench, will get confused. Okay, in which database you want to store this table? Please tell me about that particular part, right? So that is why we are have to write this particular statement. And whenever you want to create a table, whenever you want to create a table, what you do, you just have to write this particular query, that is your create table, and whatever the name of your table, and these are basically your columns. Okay. So these are the names of your columns. So this is the name of my table, and these are your columns, right? So right now I'm not going in depth of this particular thing because you will learn all these things by in your database management system, right? So here, this is what my username. So what first column name is my username, second column name is password, third column name is email, fourth column name is gender, fifth one is date of birth, like this. And as by working in your Java programming language, you already know that whenever we are basically creating anything, column or something like that, it's better to assign some sort of data type, right? So in your MySQL workbench, we also have data types like int, char, varchar, something like that. Okay, so whenever you want like variable length of your character, then what we generally use, we use varchar over there. So this is already a you can call it as a data type. Okay, and you can by if you are basically connecting this particular topic with your database, your Java programming language, then we can say that it will store our string, right? And the length of that particular string is what, 25. So if I will write 26 now, so it will not consider 26 the number of your character. So it can hold only 25 now characters. Like email, it can store only 50 characters. Like your gender, it can store only 25. So see, right now I have used these basically values randomly. But see, basically we are storing some sort of spaces na, for all these things. So if I know that a gender can store only like male and female, and for female, you already know that the maximum size can be of like 6 characters, okay? Not more than that. So that is why what I will do, I will directly write it down 6. Why to waste that much amount of space in the memory, right? Like this. So we have to basically, whenever we will study database management system, na, then we will our entire focus is on your space complexity too. It's not like that if a user cannot have a name of 25 characters, so why should we are writing for 25 like that? Okay, so don't use these such kind of stuff. So once we have created this table, then what will happen automatically, we are able to create a table, right? So let me refresh this thing, and once I will refresh this particular thing, okay, here my I is small, sorry. So it is again case sensitive, right? Now, yeah. So you can see that now it is in your bold one, right? Immunocare 123. It means now we are accessing this database. Now, if I will execute this particular one, then you will see that now we have created a table. See, here we are getting. So earlier I am getting this particular error. Why? Because this Regi is already, because we are all accessing this particular database, right? So that is why we are getting an error now. But now I want to see this particular thing, what how my table looks like. So that is why whenever you want to retrieve something, so there is a query named as your what select query, right? So this query we generally use select asterisk means entire table from the name of my table. So if I am going to execute this query, then what will happen? You will find out, see, this is how my table looks like, right? And if you will check it out, if you want to see, okay, what kind of database means what kind of basically, so I have to click over there and you can see here that, okay, this is a username and it is of this data type we have to enter, right? So it means that in pin I can enter only, it will take only integer values. We cannot write any string and all for that particular thing, right? Like this. Now, once we have created our table, now what else we can do? We can basically execute, we can insert our data in that particular table too. So for that, we have a query named as your insert query. So what we generally do, we generally write it down, insert into, and the name of this table. See, whatever the thing you will see in this blue color, na, all these are your what keywords. But please don't get means confused like, okay, sir, again we have to learn this particular. So this is just an overview I am giving you. You will not get any question in your end semester examination based on this particular Java database connectivity, okay? So but still what I want that you should have an idea so that in your next semester you can directly map this particular database management system, right? You don't have any that kind of question, okay, why should we create database management system? Because right now you have, you know, the answer is that what if if we are creating some application and we require to store that particular data, so how do we basically store that particular data, okay, and that particular data in a permanent manner, not in a temporary fashion, right? Like this. So let's get back to our slide. So these are basically what your queries, okay? So if you want to create your database, if you want to drop your, using this query, using this drop, it means we are able to delete our entire database. Now it means that if you want to create, delete our database, the entire database, so we have to use this drop query. Similarly, if you want to create your table, so you can directly, these are your keywords, okay? And this is what your, the name of your table. So I will share with you this particular thing, entire thing over there. So like this, and if you want to table, delete that particular table, so again, you have to use this particular thing. Okay. So drop is a query through which basically we can delete our either database or your table permanently. Right. Similarly, if you want to insert data, if you want to retrieve some data, if you want to update data, delete data. So all these queries are there. So it becomes quite handy if you want to basically update something. Otherwise, if you will check it out in your files, if you are storing your data in files, then how you are going to update it? You have to write a lot of code for that particular thing, okay? So it will keeps on checking that value and all, something like that. But here, if you want to update, if you want to insert something, see how easy this thing, all these things are, right? So there are many other things which we are going to like your constraint, integrity constraint and all. Now, because now I hope that you already have an idea about this SQL basic, like these are the queries that are there. Now, what we want to use this JDBC. That is your, we want to connect our Java with our database. Okay, so as I told you, not only with your MySQL data, but other database management system too. So how we are able to do that? So for that, what we generally do, we have this Java applications. Okay, and we already have database. Now we want a connection, we want to establish a connection between these two things, entities. So how would I be able to do that? So for that thing, we required a connector, or generally we call it as a driver, and that driver is nothing but known as your JDBC, right? So if you want to perform a connectivity between Oracle database management system, right? So you will find out that Oracle is providing you this particular Java database connectivity driver, right? So let's check it out, how to find it out. So what I will do, I will share that particular link with you guys also, so that you will find out. So I'm just telling you how to store this how to basically use this particular connectivity part. Right now, I am assuming that you have this your NetBeans, as well as you have MySQL Workbench. Right now, after that, you required this particular thing, that is what my this JDBC. So what you will do, because now you have MySQL Workbench, so you required a database connectivity or connector, or you can call it as your driver, which will connect your Java with your MySQL. Okay. So that is why what you do, you just try to, even I will share this link with you guys, but still what you can do is you can directly download, you can, if you want, you can directly Google it, this particular thing, and you will get this particular link. Okay. Where you will find, like, you have to just write it down like this, J connector MySQL, and you will get this particular results, right? Once you will get this particular result, after that, see, I'm just telling you the steps. Okay, otherwise I have seen like students generally get confused how to basically install this particular thing. So after that, you have to click in this drop down, and you have to click on this particular platform independent. So once you will click on this platform independent, so you will find out this Java download. Okay, just click here, and after that, you will find out that you will be able to install this particular thing. So once this is a zip file. So once you will able to download this particular thing, then try to extract it. And if you want to store it in some folder, you can store it. But once you will open this particular thing, so one thing which you will find over there is jar file, right? So you will find this jar file, and this is what we want, right? Jar means, the full form of jar is Java archive. So you can see that it is a compressed file, okay, of our Java. So it consists of your entire packages, each and everything, right? Like this. Now, once you have this thing, now what you have to do in whatever the project. So if I want, so right now in my project, let me show you. Yeah. So in this project right now, I want to perform Java database connectivity. So right now you already know how to create a project. So once you have created a project and you want database connectivity, so for that particular project, what you do in the library part, right? In the library part, just right click over there and just write it down, click over there and click here as add jar folder. So I have already set it this path, but what you can do, you can basically browse that particular path over here, and you can directly, whatever the file you have downloaded, and just try to click on this particular MySQL connector Java 8.0.25 and directly open this particular thing. So once this operation is done, now it means that in your system, you have this particular connector. That is your MySQL connector this. Now it means that whatever the connection you want to establish, now you will be able to perform connection. But remember, not with your Oracle database management system or your IBM database management system like that. You can establish a connection only with your this MySQL, because we have installed or downloaded, or we are using this particular MySQL connector. Now it means that now you already have this basically Java database connector. Now you have Java application as well as database. So all three components you are having, right? Like this. So why to learn basically Java database JDBC connectivity? Because remember that JDBC stands for your Java database connectivity, right? Now, now here, because in this thing, what we are able to do using this particular driver or connector, we are establishing a connection with our database, right? Like our MySQL, and we can create whatever the statement we want to create. We can execute whatever the statement. We can also view, modify the results of the report. So all whatever the task we are directly writing over here, na, means in this particular thing, same thing we can perform where directly here in our this particular thing. So now we just required MySQL workbench, but we can basically store our data, access our data directly by executing queries here in our using Java programming language, right? Like this. So these are the applications where we generally use Java database connectivity. Like in your Swing application, most of you have already used this particular thing in your applets, your servlets. See, these are the, see, whenever you will learn about your advanced Java, na, in advanced Java, you will find out that the you can say that the course is the syllabus of that particular your Java, advanced Java consists of your Java servlet, that is, and your JSP, your in enterprise Java bean. So all these things requires what your database connectivity, right? So see, if I will click on this particular thing, so you will see what I just want to show you. If you will click on this particular link, let me open this particular link. So what you can see here is, see why this Java programming language becomes so popular and why I'm sharing you this particular link. So I will basically upload these slides on this our LMS so that you will see that, see, these are the, because see, nowadays Java programming language becomes so popular. So what happened nowadays, every now all these things, all these drivers are provided by, not by Java, means Oracle Java, or it means Java programming team. All these Java and the JDBC driver are basically implemented at means and means you will find out all these JDBC component by these companies. So see, you will find out a lot of means industry support for related to your JDBC. So you can see here the, like, we are already using MySQL, but you will find out, like, see how many database management systems are like this entire industry. So they are using different what database, like I have PostgreSQL. Some of you are using PostgreSQL. If you want to use IBM database too, DB2, so what you do, you directly click over there and you have to download the driver. And again, if you want to establish a connection with between, right? So all these things you will find out. So that is why Java programming language becomes so popular, because nowadays industry also supports this particular Java, because whatever the program, whatever the application you want to execute, so they know that Java becomes so popular. So it's better to provide this particular industry support so that users will also use their particular databases too. That is why we are using now. Suppose if MySQL is not providing us Java database connectivity, then we will never use MySQL. Okay, but if they are providing us, that is why we are using this particular uh, what your Java database connectivity, right? Like after that, what we can see, because this thing is very important. This diagram is very important. We are running our Java application. This is our Java database. Now we have this our JDBC driver. Okay. So you will see over there for Oracle, we have different Java database driver. For SQL, we have this particular database driver, JDBC driver. So remember, this is very important. Okay. Otherwise, you will get confused. So this functionality provided by our Java, and this entire implementation provided by that particular company. Okay, so if we want to basically perform a connection between these two things, so we require this particular what your these drivers. Okay, so that is why we require. And who is providing these drivers, JDBC drivers? These companies. So Java is not providing, because Java becomes so popular and they want to basically integrate this particular Java. So that is why they are providing, right? So this is a concept, you can call it as, in the case of your business. So if you want to become so popular, so you have to make it, so you have to put some effort, so that every Java user or a Java based company, they will basically try to use your database management system. So like this. Okay. So these are the components which you will learn whenever we are discussing about your Java database connectivity. So what I can tell you, I'm not going in the depth of this particular thing, but still I just want to tell you with respect to JDBC is that, see, this is our application. Suppose you have written some program, class, something like that. Now I want to create this connection between database. So first of all, we have to establish a connection. Then only we will be able to execute our query. So we already have this driver. So remember this driver works as, and you can call it as a translator, right? So what it will do, it will take from the entire code, whatever that particular query, it will pick up only that particular query from that particular Java application, and it will execute it in that particular database, right? So first of all, what we have to do, this is our first step. We required a driver. So right now we have Java application, we have application, and we have database. Now we have downloaded this driver too. Now, first of all, we have to build a connection. So that is why there is an interface. Okay. So connection from Java applied to database, some network connection is requirement. So that is why if now we have all these components, but it's not like that now we start executing our application. No, we have to build a connection. So we have to write a statement through which, via which we are able to establish a connection between your driver and our database. So once we are able to do that, then what we generally do, and if we want to execute our queries or retrieve whatever the statement that is basically related to our database, if we want to execute, then because we are using the concept of because we are using Java programming language, so we always create a statement object. So statement object, why we are using this statement object? Because we want to send our query to database and to bring a database result. So remember, the first, this we have, this we have already installed a driver. Now, first of all, we have to establish a connection. Now we want to execute our, if we want to basically execute our query in our database, so it's not like you can directly write and start executing your query. No, first of all, you have to create a statement object. Okay. And remember that whenever we are using this particular your Java, if we want to perform your the connection between your SQL, so we have to import a package named as import java.sql. So all these things like your connection, your statement object, as well as your result set, all these things you will find out where inside your this particular package, that is your java.sql. And if we are not importing this particular thing, and if we are creating a connection, so connection is basically a keyword, okay, or you can call it as an interface in our Java programming language. So it will say that it will throw us an compilation error, and it will say that undefined name or something like that. Okay, so that is why we have to import this package. That is your import java.sql. SQL means because we want the functions that are related in order to build this particular thing. Now, once we are done with that, now we have imported, now we have established a connection. Now we have created this statement object, and using this particular object, remember, we are able to execute our query. We are going to use this particular functionality, and whatever the thing we are getting it, okay, from our database. So suppose we have this particular table, and we want to fetch that table, and we want this back on our Java application. So how can we do that? So again, we required this particular one, that is your result set. Remember, so this all these things are classes and interfaces that are there inside our java.sql. It's not like that we can use any name, any class, something like that. No. So result set, what is the main logic behind the result set is, and why do we use result set? Because result set holds the result of SQL query. So whatever the query we are writing, so it will store what your this particular thing. So whenever you are creating any Java database connectivity application, first of all, you have to import a package. like import java.sql, right? Then you have to register a driver. So nowadays we don't need this particular thing, but for this thing, what we are doing, we are directly right, like we download it and we directly right click in on that particular thing. So automatically it will register. Okay, so nowadays our NetBeans as well as Eclipse IDE have become so intelligent that now we don't require this particular step. Now, after that, once you have imported, now first of all, you have to establish a connection. So we have to open a connection, right? Now, if you want to execute a query, then you execute a query. So whatever the query you have to execute, if you want some result, okay, from that query, so what you will do, you will use this result set. And then after that, you will find out that every time we have to clean up the requirement. So automatically we have this particular what your JVM, but still you will remember that because if you got some exception or something like that, so that is why we generally what we generally do, we always close that connection. So whenever you are creating this connection, it's better if your entire function is over, so it's better to close that connection, right, like this. So this is just an example. What I have done, first of all, I have created a connection. So whenever you are creating a connection, so see what you have to do, you have to write this particular thing. Driver manager is a class, dot connection is a method, right? Like this. And here you have to write, like we are using JDBC, which database? For MySQL database. For which machine? Our own machine. For which port? For your 3306. Which database? So you can see there are many databases that are there. So I want to access that particular database. What is the username and what is the password of that particular database, right? So we have to mention this thing. Now, after executing this statement, now we have all established a connection. So once we have established a connection, then what I have told you over there, I have told you that you have to use this statement object if you want to execute any query. So that is why here we are creating an object of this particular statement. And this statement is doing what? Here we are using con for this particular connection. See, this con is coming here. Con dot create statement means whatever the statement you want to write. Okay. So if we are going to call now, whatever the query, now you can write whatever the statement you want to write, okay, whatever the query you want to execute. So here we are executing query stmt.execute query. This is what my query is. Select asterisk from your employee. Now whatever the result we are getting it now, we want to fetch it back on our Java application. So for that I have told you we required this particular result set. So result set holds the result of SQL query. So use this particular object of the reference variable of your result set. And this result set will hold what? Whatever the query we are executing, whatever the result we are executing. Now after that, we will try directly print whatever the thing we want to print. So here, whenever we are writing get int 1, 2, 3. So what these 1, 2, 3 are your columns. Okay. So from our table, if we have 4 columns, but we want only first, second, third column. Okay. So whatever the name of that particular column. So I will write it down 1, 2, 3. And what we have, suppose here we have only integer number. So that is why we required get int. Here we have some varchar value that are basically your string. So you can write it like get string like that. So once we are able to execute this thing, then what I have told you, please try to close the connection, right? So it's better to close this particular connection. So this connection, see, now we have created, now we want to close. So we directly call this particular method. So once you will see that after executing this particular thing, we are able to close the connection. Okay, so this is all about our today's lecture. So in tomorrow's lecture, I will try to cover up more things that are basically related to our Java database connectivity, so that in future you will not face any trouble or related to this particular Java database connectivity. Okay, I will tell you about some of the things, some of the concepts that are basically related to your Java database connectivity. Okay, so that is all for our today's lecture. So